Hey friends, Ash here with Gents with another fragrance review. As you can see, it's another nice day, great weather, so I decided to shoot a video outside again. It's not too windy, but I do have a little wind buster on the microphone that I've never used before. So that's either gonna help with the wind and you're not gonna hear it as much, or it's gonna completely deaden the sound and ruin it. I have no clue because I've never used that before, even though I've had it for probably 3 years now. Today's one of those days where I'm reviewing a fragrance and I'm not even 100% sure why I'm doing it. It's a fragrance that I've had for a while. It's a really cheap one. You can pick this up from FragranceNet for about $8. So definitely on the extreme cheap side of things. And it's also in Walmarts and stores like that all across America as well. It's a real bargain bin fragrance. I picked this fragrance up months ago. It was basically one of those things where I needed just a little bit of money to get me past the free shipping threshold on FragranceNet. So I threw the fragrance in and figured, why not? It's this one, JOVAN Sex Appeal. That is quite the name. So in this video, I'm gonna break down this fragrance, let you know how it smells, let you know if it's something that maybe you should add on to a future shopping cart for free shipping. We'll check out that presentation as always, and I'll just give you my general thoughts on this one. So let's jump right into this. Sex Appeal. First off, we're gonna check out the presentation, and I just wanna talk really quickly about the presentation. And if you know this fragrance, you probably know what it is that I wanna talk about. It's that little blurb on the front. Let me just go ahead and read it off to you here. Sex Appeal. Now you don't have to be born with it. Thank God. This provocative, stimulating blend of rare spices and herbs was created by man for the sole purpose of attracting women. At will. Man can never have enough. I really like that last sentence. It's almost Englishy, you know, like a poorly translated sentence from a foreign language into English, but it's actually just supposed to sound that way. Man can never have enough. Like you're a horned up caveman or something. That's what they're trying to get across with this one. And this came out, I believe, in '75. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at this box. There it is, Sex Appeal. There's that nice blurb that I read off. You can just look at this packaging design and tell that this is something straight out of the '70s. Though the bottle sizes, the bottle shapes, and things like that have changed over the years from when it was first released. On one side of the box, you're gonna have JOVAN here, and on the other, Sex Appeal. On the top, just says cologne spray. Little info on the bottom along with your badge code stamped into the box there. And there is your back of the box. Now we're gonna take a look at the bottle. This is the 3 fluid ounce size, but something a little interesting here. Instead of going with 90 mils, which is what you would typically see with a 3 ounce bottle, they went with 88 mils. So here we have the bottle, JOVAN Sex Appeal. There is the top of your cap. Nothing on the bottom save for the badge code, which is printed on the bottle. The cap slides snugly into place. It is just a really flimsy plastic cap. And you can see on the inside there where it has another plastic piece that kind of goes over the atomizer. And there's a close-up of the atomizer itself. The atomizer on this one, not fantastic. It does kind of a puff of fragrance. I'll do a quick spray and show you what it looks like. And it blew right back in my face, so that's awesome. Note-wise, it's a little bit hard to find the official note breakdown for this fragrance at this point. If you look on Fragrantica, it just says green notes and spices, which is not altogether accurate at all. Base Notes adds on a couple additional things like musk and patchouli, but they don't have everything on there either. So rather than look around with Google and try to find an official note breakdown of what the fragrance had when it was first released, I'm just gonna go based off what I smell here. I figure it's better that than just saying, oh, I smell green notes, I smell spices. When you first spray this on, it comes across pretty much exactly how you would expect, which is an old school 70s aftershave kind of smell. It does get a little bit barbershoppy as it dries down, though it's never a true barbershop scent in my opinion. You get a lemony citrus in the opening, which smells a little bit sharp, and along with that you get lavender and what smells like carnation right off the bat. There's also this dated kind of amber smell in the opening as well that gives it a little bit of warmth. Carnation is going to be one of those notes that's a little easier to pick out in old school fragrances because carnation was used in a number of them. Doesn't really get used very much anymore now. There is a sort of spicy feeling in the opening and that carries through into the dry down, though it's kind of indiscernible as to what spice it actually is. Comes across a little bit like cinnamon at times. The sun has decided to shine directly onto my back at like 400 degrees Fahrenheit right now. It's a little bit harsh in the opening, like I said, a little bit sharp, and it definitely smells of its time period, especially off the top. I will say though that if you give it a few minutes, those harsh edges kind of die away. They fall off from the fragrance. And once that harshness fades away, you pick up a little bit of a powdery feeling, which is most likely coming from the carnation, as well as a dusty patchouli. And along with that patchouli is an obvious musk. And musk may be one of the strongest notes to come out of this fragrance as you head from the mid into the dry down. The musk and the patchouli. Sex appeal definitely comes across as a more mature fragrance throughout the entirety of its lifespan. Opening, mid, dry down, comes across mature through all of those. So for a lot of you guys out there, it's gonna remind you of your father. For others of you out there, it's gonna remind you of your grandfather, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying it doesn't smell modern at all. And sex appeal shares strong similarities to two other old school fragrances that you may be aware of. One of them is Pierre Cardin Pour Monsieur, and that's a fragrance that you can find in Walmarts, again, all across America, similar to this one. I usually see that one in gift sets at Walmarts, especially around Christmas time. That's another old school fragrance. That one came out in '72, so it actually predates this one a little bit, and that one also has kind of an old man vibe to it, if you want to call it that. It doesn't smell bad, but again, dated. The other fragrance that sex appeal shares some similarities to is Old Spice, which I'm sure more of you recognize. Now when I say Old Spice, I'm not talking about all the different iterations of Old Spice that have come out recently over the past decade or so, where Old Spice is kind of jockeying with Axe for position on body spray fragrances. None of those. I'm talking about the old school Old Spice. The strongest similarities between this one and Old Spice are going to be the carnation, which I spoke about a little bit earlier, and then the musk and aldehydes that are used in Old Spice. So if you really dig those two fragrances, and for some reason you've never smelled this one, you should probably check it out. If you despise those two fragrances, then I don't think that you're gonna like this one. I will say that when you hit the far dry down of sex appeal, it smells much better to me. The far dry down is where this one smells the best, in my opinion. It doesn't have any of that sharpness or harshness from the opening. That's all completely gone once it hits the dry down. The patchouli and musk work together really well. The patchouli doesn't really come across earthy or dirty. It's more dusty. You get a bit of spice, again, kind of indiscernible, but I talked about that in the opening. And then a nice amber note that kind of just wraps everything up with a bow. It still smells old school in the dry down. There's no escaping that. But in the dry down, it comes across more like a gentlemanly old school fragrance, instead of coming across like you're a clueless old man wearing something horribly dated that smells like crap. So that's a big thumbs up to have it smelling nice in the dry down, because ultimately we're talking about an $8 fragrance from the 70s. We're not talking about some super expensive high dollar stuff here. The fragrance is a cologne, which means it's an eau de cologne, lower concentration compared to an eau de toilette or an eau de parfum, which are going to be your more typical concentrations of fragrances coming out nowadays. So you would think that it would have terrible lasting power and terrible projection, but it's actually pretty good. I get 6+ hours of longevity. It's nothing insane, but it definitely gets the job done. The projection is actually really strong initially when you first spray it on, when it has that kind of sharp opening. As it dries down though, it settles into a nice pleasant scent cloud. So it's not anything that projects really hard, at least not off my skin. It's not going to fill up a room, anything like that. You just get a nice 6 to 10 inch scent cloud that kind of sits around you, and as you move around, you'll get a nice little scent trail going. It's nothing insane, but it's actually much better than you would expect. Where this does have that kind of old school vibe to it, I think that it's viable to be used most of the year. Probably not something I'd want to wear in summer though, if I'm being honest. And like most of those old school fragrances, this one would work equally well in day or night. A lot of the fragrances from that time period, especially ones that are like this one, were made to be basically used anytime that you wanted. Like I've mentioned numerous times in this video though, sex appeal definitely comes across as more of a mature fragrance. I cannot imagine too many teenagers out there wanting to wear this one. Can't imagine many guys in their 20s wanting to wear this one. Probably 35 and up is what I would say. And if I'm being honest, most guys in their 30s probably don't want to smell like this either. It's not that it smells bad, it's just, it's definitely going to give a lot of people out there grandfather vibes. And that's because of how many people in the 70s and through into the 80s were wearing this fragrance or fragrances like this. But maybe if you're dating a girl that has like a father fetish or a grandfather fetish or something like that, $8, this could do you really well. I'm joking about that, but only kind of. What we should all do now is buy sex appeal and then start a false sex appeal hype train and try to get everybody wearing this again, and then bring fragrances like this back into the mainstream. We need to see this start cracking some top 10 lists. Am I right? At least 2 or 3 of you out there agreed with what I just said. Seriously though, guys, those are my general thoughts on sex appeal. If you like those old school kind of fragrances, again, a little bit gentlemanly, if you want to call it that, or if you want to be mean about it, a dated old man kind of scent, then definitely check this one out if you haven't, because it's only $8, which is next to nothing. Just ever so slightly more than a can of Axe. I appreciate the smell. I actually do enjoy it a bit, but it's not something that I'm ever going to wear personally, even though the dry down does smell pretty nice. The blending of the fragrance is actually pretty good, especially considering how cheap this one is. The notes work together pretty well. Nothing sticks out like a sore thumb. And sometimes it's even hard to pick out individual notes because they're all just kind of in there jiving. Now, I know that spices and green notes are what's listed on Fragrantica. This one does not come across green to me basically ever. I get patchouli, amber, some florals, a bit of spice, but not really green. Maybe some of you out there will have a different experience with it. Maybe you'll pick it up a different way. But for me, green is not in the first 10 words that I would use to describe this one. All right, guys, if you've smelled sex appeal, let me know what you think about that in the comments below. As the box says, has this fragrance helped you attract women at will? Basically, can you just walk up to whoever you want, spray on some sex appeal, and then you're good to go? Or is this false advertising? If I know anything about us guys, though, it's that man can never have enough. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for checking out Sex Appeal with me. And as always, please like, comment, subscribe. Have a great day. I'll see you next time with another fragrance video. See you guys.